Hello, this is Katie. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if it's your first time. I'm going to be having one of my Halloween Yum Earth lollipops while I do this. And I'm going to be doing some ink blending. There's my card base. I'm just going to be ink blending directly on the card base, and I will be using Booyah by Fawn. I went through and trimmed down while my phone was charging up for this. Trimmed down all my dies and got rid of all the stuff I never trimmed off before. And then I'm using the watercolor wash freeform stencil from MFT Stamps, or My Favorite Things, again. And I'll be taping it down with my Thanksgiving tape. It does move a little bit, so I do need to hold on to the stencil better when I'm blending, even though it is taped down, just because the whole card base is underneath the stencil, so I didn't really think about it, that it could move around underneath, but it works out okay. It doesn't really affect it that much. So I am using, I just grabbed a purple, the orange is carved pumpkin, so that's appropriate, and the pink. So I knew I didn't want the purple and the pink right next to each other. This is where it moved. I'm actually licking my finger so that I can grab onto the paper. I keep seeing it not lined up again. Then I eventually just gave up and left it and decided to hold it down better. I knew I wanted the pink and purple separated, so I put the orange in the middle just for the blend. I knew I was going to be blending 3 very different colors. What's good about the oxide inks is that you can go back over, I kind of ran the purple into the orange when I went back on it, but you can just blend back over with more orange to kind of erase the purple. It's kind of like using lighter Copic markers over a dark one, or the 01 on places where you colored out of the line. It just kind of pushes the color away. So there is my blend. I always think it looks better in person than it does on camera. It's a little muddy between the purple and the orange, but that's okay. I don't mind it. So I'm going to set those aside and clean those off later. And then I'm going to be using all 3 of the ghosts. I can't seem to make a card with this set without using all 3 as kind of the focal point. And these 3 tops, they just happen to be in the same row on the stamp set, are my favorite. The pirate hat, the witch hat, and the Frankenstein, Lady Frankenstein hair. I don't know if I've used the other ones, the cat, and I think actually the Frankenstein monster hair. Anyway, these are just my 3 favorite. So 1 pass with the ink was good for those. I am going to clean those off camera and then zoom in for the coloring. I decided to kind of reach for my other alcohol markers. I have this Keyboard set. When I was on this cheap alcohol marker buying binge, I eventually got rid of a couple of the sets because I just had too many. But the best, I did kind of a comparison. I think I have a video where I did a comparison of at least between 2 sets, or maybe 3, I don't remember, of these cheaper alcohol marker sets. And the Keyboard ended up having the most options for blending a few colors that were the closest to each other, if that makes sense. So it had the best color blends in the set, because you'll get a lot of cheap alcohol marker sets that have 2 markers with different names or numbers or whatever, or the same exact color. They're not even trying anymore. But the Keyboard was the best, the most number of combos, so I could get the best value out of it, I guess. And then the Ohuhu brush markers, which is the other ones I'm using, they're pretty good. They have some pretty good color combos. It's just the quality of them is so good that I wanted to keep them. They have great individual colors, just if you want to color a small image. Even if you're not blending, so just single colors. They have enough good blends, but the quality of the Ohuhu brush marker is very, very close to Copic's. they're just really nice to use. I think there's an even bigger brush set out there. I don't need it. Again, I have Copics. I have the best. I don't need to buy, anything else. But I really, really like the quality of the Ohuhu brush markers. So if those are in your price range and you are thinking about those, I would still recommend the brush. You can get a pretty big Ohuhu set, but they're the nib tip. The brush ones are probably a little more expensive, but anyway, I think I talked yesterday about this ghost idea that I saw where someone had like edged the ghosts on the inside, like outlined it in a dark gray, and then used a lighter gray to blend it out. They were probably using Copics, which are a little smoother than these markers, so my outlines are a tad rough. My gray may have been a shade too dark, so I'd probably try this again with Copics. But I just really liked the look of it. I think if I could do it a little bit better. Also, those ghosts were the smaller ones from the Simply Celebrate Fall, the little strip of tiny ghosts. But I think it looks good. And then I decided to grab the Zero Copic, the colorless blender, and try and kind of diffuse all of it a little better. Again, if the line had been a little smoother, so if you go really slow with a Copic, a darker gray, and then with a lighter gray, I think it would look better. I eventually actually color in the whole ghost with an N0 Copic because, I don't know, the outline just didn't look right to me, so I decided to just fill them in with a super light gray. And down on paper in like a bigger area, it actually was a little bit darker than I was expecting, but I also knew it would dry a little bit lighter since it's alcohol, so it worked out okay. But I do want to try the technique again with Copics and just going a little slower, so probably on another card this month. The only cards I'll be making this month are likely going to be for videos because I am starting to film these the day of, and at some point I'm not going to have time. So I think this weekend I'm going to have to film some in advance so that I don't have to do it every day after work when I'm exhausted. And then I just used the WG9, which is the Keyboard Warm Gray 9. Just this one solid color to fill in the band on the hat there. Then I cut those out off camera. So this is where I fill them in with the N0. I'm looking at it and I'm realizing it's a lot darker than I thought it was going to be, but I know that it will lighten up a little bit. I am going to be stamping faces on them, just not yet. And it was more of an experiment. I didn't, test it out beforehand. So at some point I'll try the ghost thing again, probably on the little strip of ghosts from that other set. Then I was picking a sentiment. Maybe it was the last ink I used. Maybe this Memento is just better, but there was some ink, probably my favorite things, or Lawn Fawn maybe, the black ink. It just, the Distress Oxide ink just would not accept it. Like it was just light. When you stamped the black onto it, it wouldn't be black. It would just be a lighter version of the oxide color. I think the Memento must cut through a little better because I was expecting to have to stamp this a couple times. And maybe it'll lighten over time. I don't know. But just the nature of the ink, the two inks trying to combine is a little silly. So I stamped it mostly off of my color blending here. But these are the three faces. I just picked the three cutesy faces. I didn't want the worried looking face. He looks a little scared. I wanted it to be like a cutesy card. So I just grabbed my little Lawn Fawn acrylic blocks to pick up the three faces and just stamped those randomly. And then I'm going to be using foam tape. I'm going to show you kind of like a fix-it trick here. It's not really a trick. It's pretty self-explanatory. And I did it intentionally just because sometimes I operate backwards. It doesn't really make sense, but I didn't want to use glue. I didn't want to fight with having to squeeze my glue out today, so I'm just using my tape runner in this foam tape. So I picked about the middle of the card and then put the little ghostie on the right and then the one on the left, so they were about centered. And then I added tape runner to the bottom of the back side, and just if it went on the outside, I just kind of smooshed it around to put their hats on, or their wigs. And I knew I wanted the taller one to be in the middle to kind of center it, so the tall hair was going to be on the middle ghost. But I also want their hats or their wigs to have support of foam tape like their bodies do, or their ghosty bodies. So I just cut what I know the size that will fit in the back, and then peel off the other side of the foam tape and just take it with my tweezers and squeeze it in there and kind of pinch it down. So this, I knew I was going to do this, you know, from the beginning, just because it was easier for me. And then the witch hat I cut into a triangle, so it would fit. And then I'm just going to go over their little costume hats with a Wink of Stella pen, and that will complete the card. This is day 5. Yes, day 5. And thank you for watching, and I will see you guys tomorrow for another video. Bye.